Okay, I was wait. Okay, I guess I don't have to wait any longer. So this is the time and place for the Legal and Finance Committee meeting on June 12, 2024. And we'll begin with roll call and determination of quorum.
Beaverdorf.
Present.
Evans.
Here.
Maher.
Here.
Sechrist. Here. Stroman.
Here. Next item is adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Sechrist and a second by Evans to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now I'm going to open general public comment. This is a time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. I have not received any speaker request forms, and so I'm going to close general public comment and move on to consent items 1 through 9. And I'm going to open public comment on consent items 1 through 9. And again, I see no speaker request forms. I'm going to close public comment on consent items 1 through 9. And then I'm going to ask if there's going to, if I can get a motion to approve the minutes for May 29th. Okay, motion by Maher, second by Beaverdorf. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is consent items 2 through 5, and we'll go to the Finance Department. Tracy.
Thank you. Item 2 is some volunteers for workers' compensation purposes. Item 3 is an assessment role for an abatement of nuisances. Item 4 is the annual Business Improvement District assessment role. We're going to be setting the hearing for that for July 15th. And then item 5 is a resolution to declare some items surplus. It was continued from your May 29th Legal and Finance Committee. These are for some items that were going to be auctioned off on Iron Planet. Mr. Tech is here as well, and he can answer some questions if there are any on that.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Anybody have any comments on items 2 through 5?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Sechrist, second by Beaverdorf. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Go on to Community Development, item number 6. Director Fisher, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is our annual population numbers that we have put together for 2023. We use a methodology that has been approved by the United States Census Bureau. And drum roll, please, we have landed on 82,418, which is a 2.24% increase from last year. This has been a marked increase from previous years. We started with seeing more population growth during COVID, where in 2020 we were going beyond our typical 1% and hitting 2 and a little over 2%. So we are staying consistent with that higher growth pattern. I have Kelly Brennan in the audience today. She put a lot of work into this, and she'll stand for any questions.
Go to Kevin Maher.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question. Do you look at all at the outer, the MSA or more, because we see all this development happening outside of the city limits? Do we have any idea how they're growing, like Box Elder, and some of these other areas that are technically not in the city?
So not for this process, not for this population estimate. This is just within the city limits. The MPO does look at population of our MPO, which includes Box Elder, Ellsworth Air Force Base, Piedmont, Somerset, parts of Meade County, and parts of Pennington County. But for this specific one, this is just Rapid City proper.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the committee? Okay, take a motion. Motion approved by Beaverdorf and a second by Evans. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is Parks and Recreation. Is it Director Beegler or Mr. Lowe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask Doug Lowe, our Recreation Division Manager, to address this item, please.
Good afternoon. Basically, what we have is an amendment to the contract with the Badlands Sabres hockey group that uses the Roosevelt Ice Arena. And there's only 3 aspects of that contract that we're looking at amending. And I can just go through those real quick. One of them is they used to get 20 comp tickets for their sponsorships and special events that they have, like people that perform the national anthem and those kind of things. And we want to move that up to 40. They got a lot of sponsors and stuff like that. The second thing is would they wanted to get more specific on what their opportunities for advertising was in the facility. And so we listed all those out in the contract. And the third thing was just a change of address for the company. Any questions?
Any questions? There's a motion to approve by Bieberdorf and a second by Sechrist. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Go to the fire department. Chief Culberson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, what you have before you is a resolution writing off some uncollectible ambulance debt. As we continue to work through our old software, we continuing to find old debt that we're unable to collect on, and that's what you see here.
Any questions from the committee? Motion approved by Bieberdorf and second by Sechrist. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, the police department. Captain Siegel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this, we're asking for approval to donate a retired patrol vehicle. It was retrofitted with a canine cage in the back seat. That cage is very specific to that make and model and year of vehicle, 2014 Ford Explorer. It has 120,000 miles. Those are hard miles on patrol. It's reached its life, and so we're looking to donate that to the Humane Society. Obviously, it fits with the dog kennel. It fits with their purposes, and the Humane Society's mission is to support, or part of their mission is to support the police department and handle some calls for service, and so we'd like to donate that vehicle.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Motion approved by Sechrist and second by Maher. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the end of the consent calendar, and now we go to non-consent items. This is number 10. I'm going to open public comment on non-consent, and I have no speaker request forms. So I'm going to close public comment on the non-consent items and go to Public Works for a presentation regarding the role of consultant engineers during construction. And take it away, sir.
See, we'll get the presentation up. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Eddie Lopez, Operations Engineering Manager for Public Works. I've been with the city for a little over 3 years. Since my time here, I've managed a little over $23 million in construction work. Currently, I serve as the project manager for the Water Reclamation South Plant Improvements Project, which was awarded for construction by council at a value of $170 million. Our presentation today is going to cover why our consulting engineers needed during construction. Starting off the presentation is HCR Senior Vice President Patrick Young. He has over 33 years of experience managing large-scale infrastructure projects. He will cover what is construction administration. I'll follow up on CA services within Rapid City, and closing out the presentation will be Dave Van Cleve, the Water Rec Superintendent with over 36 years experience.
So I'll jump right into what is construction administration. Really falls under a few main categories, and it's the things that you oftentimes think about and some of them you don't. Construction management is that day-to-day management of the contractor itself. It's correspondence, it's answering, it's attending meetings with the contractor. Then moves on to payment administration. So a project of this size has hundreds of items within the schedule of value that the contractor submits. What typically happens during construction administration, you take that schedule of values, you review it, you make sure that the contractor isn't front-loading any of the task, and so it basically sets up the administration of the payment throughout the life of the project. And then once a month, it's checking the progress on each of those items to ensure that the contractor is being paid the right amount. It's schedule management on again, a project of this size. It's a very detailed schedule. Typically, in construction administration, you review that critical path to make sure it's laid out properly. There are milestones within contracts that have to be met. There are tie-ins to existing facilities, that there are limitations on that. There are checkouts that have to be done ahead of time. So typically, you look at that entire schedule to make sure that it aligns with the contractor being done in the right amount of time, and that the city's needs to continue to operate that facility while construction is going on is met. There's what we call technical services, and on the opposite side of the room, there's a cart over there that has the actual plans and specifications from this project. There are 1,200 plan sheets, drawings indicating the project, and then 5 volumes of specifications. So this details for the contractor what they're to build. One of the items that the contractor has to do then is basically provide information on what they're going to provide. So on a piece of equipment, that document will specify acceptable manufacturers, and it's made up of this. Well, the contractor has to provide a submittal that says, I've selected this manufacturer, this exact model, here's the capacities. Those have to be reviewed. It's not just equipment. It's steel that's in the plant, it's mixed designs for concrete, it's piping, it's the multiple materials of piping, it's coatings, it's linings, it's every wire, it's down to every nut and bolt, the material that goes into it. On a job of this size, again, there's probably in excess of 1,000 submittals that have to be reviewed, and one of the things that typically happens is you have to bring structural engineers to review the structural, electrical to review the electrical, process to review process. So there's quite a bit that goes into technical services. In addition, in that area, the contractor will ask questions back during construction, and those questions have to be answered. There is change management. We always want there to be minimum changes on a project, but the contractor will come through and say, I think this is a different condition. They'll dig a hole in the ground and a pipe is there that's not supposed to be there, it's not in the right location. Again, in construction administration, you review that request from the contractor. Is it a real change or not? If it is, what's the scope of that change need to be? And then there's the field inspection, which oftentimes is what's thought about. So as a pipe goes in the ground, somebody makes sure it's the right material, it's bedded properly, you compact right when you build over the top of it, you place concrete to make sure it's being done properly throughout there. So construction administration is more than just simply watching what's happening within the field. So, when would consultants be used for administration? Really on plant-type projects that are this complicated, it's the standard for a number of reasons. One of which is what I just talked about, those shop drawings and the complexity of it. Consultants provide those design engineers that design the facility to review what the contractor is providing. It's that interpretation of the design intent. It provides staff augmentation. Projects of this size require quite a bit to go through the administration, so it's providing that augmentation to the city. And then ultimately, it comes down to funding requirements. For you, $52.5 million in ARPA funds. There's a couple ties to that. The ARPA funds do dictate that you have a professional engineer within the state that assures, and they use the word assure, that the construction is being completed in accordance with those plans and specifications, those documents that I pointed out. And then there are also some inspections, specialty inspections we'll call them, that have to be done by a third-party reviewer. And those typically tie to buildings, steel in buildings, but there are a few that are dictated they be by a third-party inspector. Why? Is it important to the city to have construction administration done properly? It increases that accountability of the contractor. It's a set of eyes that sits over that administration and makes sure it is being built properly, that the city's getting everything it pays for with this contract. It manages risk. I've alluded to a little bit that, this is you still got to treat wastewater at this site the whole time construction's going on. There are new facilities that have to be brought online. There are tie-ins that have to be made. There's a certain amount of risk associated with that. And so having another set of eyes on there that understand the requirements, understand the operations as well, really gives the city operations staff an advocate in working with the contractor to make sure that plan's right before it's ever implemented. Maintain schedule. We all know that there are certainly pieces of material and equipment that are hard to procure, right? There are delivery time issues. Maintaining that schedule. We oftentimes will have a contractor say, I just can't give that valve, but this is what I can get. It's the interpretation, is that equivalent? Is that acceptable for the intended use? And ultimately, it's a better quality product. When you're paying this much for a facility, you want it to last generations. I'll take a little bit deeper dive on the coordination communication. I think I've covered that. It's that day-to-day communication. A couple things I haven't covered. You know, if the contractor asks a question, it's making sure the response gets provided in a timely fashion, and those responses are documented. So the contractor can't come back later and say, I asked a question that was not answered, I have a delay claim on the project. It's, you know, that day-to-day communication, and it's really working between all parties, making sure the city's interests are taken care of, operations is not going to be interrupted, and the contractor's getting what they need. Cost management, I talked about pay applications and schedule of values, but it's also, if a change does come up, helping negotiate that change in cost that meets that scope on that changed item. That schedule management looked at very heavily up front, and then monitored on a monthly basis. Another set of eyes that says, is the contractor thinking about this right? Is that schedule appropriate? Have they missed a critical path item that's going to prevent them from getting done on time? It's all those technical items that I talked about. It's logging of those submittals, putting those in the right place. And then once the project is nearing completion, facilities are being brought in operation, it moves into that quality assurance. So it's eyes while it's being constructed. Then when a facility is ready to be brought online, we typically bring the design team back out, all those disciplines, structural, electrical, process engineers, to review that and make sure that it was built properly and that it's ready to be started up. And if it's not, they'll provide a punch list, a list of items that are still incomplete, and make sure that those basically get done. Once the entire job's complete, it's the assurance that you have all the right warranties from the contractor, and then if something comes up in that warranty period, that the contractor takes care of that issue that was uncovered during that warranty period. I've talked a lot, you know, about the items, but it's really a team effort. And these projects typically are a team of the consultant and city staff at the level that the city staff can support. And I know on this project, the way it was originally scoped, you were providing, you know, 2.5 people within the field for that inspection that goes on out there. It is a significant effort. And it's not just one or the other, but it's a combined effort. I've got a couple of examples of similar projects. Again, these are similar. The one I'm showing on this page is a little more expensive project and a little longer duration. It's some clarifier replacement, so less facilities to do, but more of them, so over a longer period of time. And you start to see the number of people typically on that project that are engaged in it. And like the first one, construction administration, 2 people for the duration of that. That might not be 2 people 100% of the time. It might be 4 people 50% of the time, but it's equivalent to 2 people working on that. And you kind of see how our project works out. And then another way to look at it is a project that I'm doing that we're getting ready to start construction on now. And this was a communication tool to work with the city to establish, you know, the level that they're going to provide and really start to look at, through the life of a project, how it changes. And I'll just hit a few of them. You know, project administration, if we start on the left side, the little blue bar at the bottom, that's really kind of a time-dependent task, and it takes a certain amount of time each month to answer the mail and to document. As soon as the contractor's on site, you want resident services, that's that green bar. Starts at a pretty consistent level, but actually ramps up then. The more engaged the contractor is, the more facilities, the more locations they're constructing on site at one time. And that you see that green bar through time actually ramps down as the contractor's starting to finish up. Those shop drawings that I referred to, the orange bars, contractor will immediately start flooding with, this is what I'm going to provide. And you've got to remember, they can't build it in the field till they've been approved on it. So that ramps up quickly. As that starts to ramp down, now you switch over to operation and maintenance data. So those pieces of equipment that I talked about, you get the instructions as the community of, just like you change the oil in your car, you've got to change the oil in pieces of equipment. You've got certain maintenance activities you have to have. And then that red bar also includes kind of that checkout, the startup, any training of staff that has to be done to operate the new facilities. And you see, you know, engineering during construction starts lower, but as facilities go into operation, it ramps up. And then the darkest bars all the way on the right side is the documentation of exactly what got built out there. So you can imagine on a treatment plant site that already has underground conduits and pipes in there, the new pipes need to be located. So in the future, if you got to go make a tie-in or do that, this is to document that that fitting is in this location, and we know the location. So in the future, if we have to go back there and do that, but we basically as-built the entire job to show what was actually built on the project itself.
So how does construction administration look like in Rapid City? I like to highlight the slide here. On the left-hand side, you see the makeup of our construction group. We have 2 construction administrators, 1 construction inspection supervisor, and 9 inspectors, full-time and 1 part-time inspector. On the right-hand side, you see their current workload right now. You see that they're fully allocated. One thing that I would like to point out is that our city staff excels at managing projects like street reconstruction, water sewer main upgrades, and stormwater projects. Their deep understanding of existing systems allows them to be efficient in handling these vital infrastructure projects for us. However, for facility-type projects like our water reclamation facility, we strategically partner with qualified consultants. The consultants' specialized expertise in large-scale construction ensures that our projects are able to stay on track, meet budget, and ensure a good return on investment. By ensuring a quality product, they also help us out in meeting funding requirements. This two-pronged approach that the city takes helps us optimize our resource allocation. City staff is able to tackle familiar projects, while consultants provide the specialized oversight needed for these larger, much complex projects. This setup is not unique to Rapid City. It is industry standard, and ultimately this collaborative approach allows us to have a successful outcome of the project and allowing us to be good stewards with city resources at the end.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Van Cleve, the Water Reclamation Superintendent. As Eddie said, I've got 37 years in the business. 27 of them have been here with Rapid City. Our staff mission is to protect the public health by providing efficient and economical collection and treatment services for the city. Due to the age and condition of our facility, some parts of which are now 57 years old, this project is going to be very important to assure that we're able to complete meeting our regulatory obligations to the state, and also it's going to be very important to the overall health and future growth of our community. The operations staff is fully engaged in completing the day-to-day functions of the current facility. Their continued focus on operational demands is necessary to ensure that the plant is able to continuously operate and successfully do that for the duration of the project and for decades to come. It's important that our staff is able to focus on that mission without being pulled away by construction complexities. That will enable us to continue to provide continuous customer service, and by having a focused construction administrator to manage the build, I believe that this will ensure a quality product. I would sincerely encourage the council to hire specialized dedicated CA services to ensure that the ratepayer receives an asset of full value, and that that this complex project will successfully meet Rapid City's needs well into the next half century. With that, that concludes the presentation. We will stand for any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Go to Lindsay Sechrist.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank you guys for the presentation. This is really helpful information to understand the process for the construction administration and management. I guess my question would be, is it fair to say that construction administration costs are about 10% of the total project cost, or is that, is there any way to kind of gauge that, what the appropriate cost of this service might be?
Yeah, so there's rule of thumbs out there, and 10% is kind of a sanity check that's out there. It's not necessarily the industry standard. We usually look at past projects, depending on what they've done, and we use that data to kind of try to program what are we going to spend out for the duration of the project. So, yeah, but 10% is more of a sanity check.
Okay, I was just curious how that flows with just the increase of cost of material and the labor costs.
Yeah.
Obviously driving our project costs up. And so with the water reclamation facility consultant request that we recently denied or continued, would that include the entire $170 million project, that $10 million initial estimate, or?
Yeah, so that cost includes the CA services for phase 2 of the project. So that would be the completion for the $170 million, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the info.
Anybody else? Oh, I got a question, just to follow up on yours. So is it $10.7 million for just phase two, or is that the entire project for administrative services?
So we'll get a little bit more into the details in the next follow-up Public Works meeting where we're going to go into the contract. But yes, that 10.7 just includes phase two of the project.
So is phase one, that's already,
Currently, it's under construction. We're kind of coming to a tail end. We're looking to close that out in August, and we already have a CA agreement for that project.
so how much did we pay for construction management for phase one?
I have to take a closer look, but I believe it's about 2 million. $2.1, I believe.
So is the way this is done then, do you figure out what the cost of the project is and then just go with a 10% or whatever number it
So
is?
usually the contracts are written on a time and material basis, so we do set a limit. So say that 10.7 was set up to a maximum, but we pay on time and material. Whatever they worked is what we pay. Again, we use just the 10% more as a guiding rule of where we're at. There's other rule of thumbs that we look at too, where we look at how many hours are being spent out in the field versus how many hours are spent in the office. So we do a couple of checks here and there to make sure that we're in the ballpark.
Okay, so if, for instance, it says in this contract that HDR will provide a senior construction manager to be full-time and serve as a resident project RPR per Exhibit D, Russell Hallcraft has been identified as the RPI for the duration of the project. And it says in here at 5.4, it says it is assumed that the senior construction manager will be on site full-time for 50 hours per week, and an engineer 1 or 2 will be on site an average of 20 hours per week. So it seems to me like we're kind of backing up and saying, I'm going to make these numbers work out to this maximum 10.7. And I want to know if that's the way the contracting business is here. Is that, I mean, he's got down that he's going to be there, total inspection hours, he's going to be there 10,000 hours through 2028.
Yeah, so the way we're looking at the duration of the project, so I believe we're estimating about 4 years. So then we go out and we back out how much time we think he's gonna be out in the field. Again, we're just trying to get a number of what we're gonna be at the end of 4 years. And they only get paid what they work. So there's not that we're maxing them out at 10.7.
So do we have somebody else hired to keep track of his time then, or how does that work?
I keep track of his time, so as a project manager, I supervise him out. I'll be out in the trailer with him. So we do keep track of who's out there.
Okay, so we'll know then before, did he submit a progress payment?
Yeah, so
request?
monthly, we get an invoice and we look at it. I look over the hours submitted. I look over everybody's time that's submitted at the time.
And if he's not there 50 hours a week, then he won't get paid for 50 hours a week, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. And those are all part of the contract that we'll see before
Yes.
anybody's paid?
Yeah, so all this stuff gets audited, so, HDR has their system where they keep track of hours, and they submit the invoice, and they have the hours that are tracked in there. So, again, all this stuff is funded through SRF funds, grants, so there's certain accounting principles that we need to keep to make sure that we are able to meet our funding requirements.
So, okay, and then this Exhibit B, it says that the total inspection hours are nearly 35,000 hours for a four-year project.
Yeah,
You're aware of that?
so kind of what we were talking about earlier, there's different individuals that are come in. We're saying it's about 4 individuals full-time, they're gonna be out there 4.5. But we may have, 20 people working on the project at one time, depending on what's being reviewed. We have structural engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, process engineers. We have different engineers that are helping us out in the project. And that's kind of one of the good things about the CA is that we're able to ramp up and ramp down. I mean, 1 week we may have 20 people on the job, and then the next week we have 2 people.
So do you have an estimate of what we'll actually end up paying out for construction management? Or are we going to go right up to the 10.7 million?
That's kind of what was estimated right now at 10.7, and as we go through there, if they're working 40 hours, they're getting paid 40 hours.
So they aren't working any other jobs, just this job for those 40 hours?
Yeah, that's kind of the understanding. So Russ will be on the site for our job during that time.
And has it shown, in the phase one, has it shown to be pretty much accurate or not?
Yeah, So we've been keeping on track. We've been managing a couple of projects out there, and we're coming to a tail end of the project right now. So we'll be closing out in August, and we still have surplus money in there, so.
Okay, so then what happens to that money that isn't paid for consulting services that aren't
Ultimately,
performed?
once the contract is finalized and we close it out, it goes back to the coffers,
The coffers, meaning
back to the fund, general fund, where we're allocating.
the city general fund?
Yeah, not general fund, but the enterprise. Water, yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Motion to acknowledge by Bieberdorf and second by Sechrist. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Bieberdorf, second by Maher. All in favor? All opposed? We're adjourned.
Did they do this presentation for Rob?
I assume so.
What was his?